This is going to be a short video introducing the syntax for writing a function in Python. This first function, it is supposed to take as input a positive integer n and as output return an n by n numpy array where every entry in that numpy array is a 3. So let's start by importing numpy. Okay, we'll call it np as is the standard way to do it. And let's just practice before we get to defining this function. So for example, if I want to have a 4x4 numpy array, I could say np, I've used zeros before, but let's try ones. And here's a little mistake. And what's the problem? Well, let's look at the documentation for this ones function. So the first input is supposed to be shape. And shape is supposed to be something like a tuple here. And so here, my first input was just this number 4. So that doesn't quite work if I want to have a multi-dimensional array. So here's a way to fix it. I can say np.ones 4, 4. Perfect. And then if I want to have all of them equal to 3, here I've multiplied it by the scalar 3. Okay, and now here is the syntax for writing a function. You say def for define, then the name of your function, then parentheses, then the names of whatever you want your input variables to be. So this will just be n, then a colon, and then here it's just going to be one line, but in general your functions will be many more lines than that, and they should all be indented. So here, notice how it's indented. And then you say return for what you want the output to be. And in this case, well, that's exactly right, except instead of 4, I want to call it n. So let's try it. Let's try fn5. So here we have this 5x5 numpy array with all entries equal to 3. Let's do one more. This one takes as input, instead of an integer, it takes as input a numpy array, two-dimensional numpy array, and as output it wants to return the second to last column of that array. So let's just start with an array we can work with. So let's say a equals np.array. Okay, so this is like the by hand way to make a numpy array. And this will just be a 2x3 numpy array. 3, 1, 4 in the top row. And how about 2, 2, 2 in the next row? Okay, so if I look at the shape of this, it's 2x3. Or if I look at it, you can see it's 2 rows and 3 columns. And we want to get this column here, this 1, 2. So how can I get that? Well, let's define a new function, my col input a. Hey, it doesn't have to be the same as this a. That's just a coincidence. And then I'm going to return a. And now I want every row. So that's what this colon is going to represent. And I want the second to last column. So not the last column, but the second to last column. And one way to get that is to do -2. And so if I do my col a, you can see that that gives 1, 2. Okay, if you really want it to still look like a column vector, then one change you could make would be, say, go from the second to last, and remember that the right endpoint isn't going to be contained or isn't going to be included. So now you can see that looks more like a column. Hey, but I think this other one was fine. So let's just stick with that. I think it's easier to understand. So this says not the last one, which would be -1, but the second to last one. Okay, yeah, that's all I'll say in this video. Thank you for watching.